Hey guys, how's it going? So this right here is my Epic Hell team for Advent. This is the third time they've brought back this Advent, and this is overall the easiest one. So I'll walk through my team, and then I'll show off a bunch of other example teams that I think are really good, and just talk about it overall. So you don't have to worry about doing Epic Hell difficulty, and you can use a team much worse than what I'm using to do normal Hell difficulty and just farm it. Hell, you can even do just normal difficulty. But if you want to get everything in the shop, then you need Epic Hell. Make sure that you buy the bookmarks and stuff like that, especially if you're not going to do Epic Hell though. Make sure you buy that first. But essentially the gist of this team is the first fight right here, you have to AoE the boss, I believe, 5 times while there's no ads there. So you need to kill all of its minions, then AoE it 5 times. So Emma Landy and Belian do a ton of AoE. Green Vivian does as well. I've seen a lot of different teams used here. Overall, this is probably the easiest of the 3 fights. You just need as much AoE as possible and as much damage. You don't really need a ton of survivability. It's not really something super complex. You don't even need to really have multiple characters of the same element, which you would like to have for the other fights if possible, because you get bonuses. This one, for each character of the same element, you get a speed boost. So if you have 3 green units, you get like a 40% speed boost as an example. If you only have 2, then you would get a 20%. The next fight is a up to 40% health boost, which the second phase I would say is the hardest one, which we're about to enter right here. This fight right here is probably the most difficult one. So the gimmick here is essentially you have to hit the Yeti 5 times. I think 6 times actually. You have to single attack the Yeti 6 times. So I can't do this fully on auto. I actually have to click on the Yeti like so, which is a little bit unfortunate because otherwise you'd be able to do almost all of this on auto. And so my characters are just going to keep wailing on that Yeti. And so the other important thing to keep in mind is this boss will do a secondary attack if it attacks you and you don't have at least 2 buffs on. So that's why this team has a ton of buffs. You have Arya, who gives herself buffs. Diane gives a ton of buffs to the team. Even Shu gives buffs to the team. So pretty much everyone is really buffing up your team and making it a lot easier to run. Also, Arya has Bastion of Hope and a lot of resistance overall, so she's able to resist most of the stuff and not get stunned as often, which my DN did. Told you this is kind of a jank team. I don't really have good gear on my characters overall. Some of these units are for PvP, but a bunch of them aren't for really anything. Like, I just don't even really do anything with them. Like DN, I think I maybe use her in Nightmare Lab or something. But essentially, this is the basics of this. The boss also takes less damage if you don't have at least 2 buffs on, so you really want to make sure you have a bunch of buffs. Some people used to do this fight by cheesing it, going like Watcher Shuri Strays, and then on the final fight, I think they went like Flan, Sigrid, or something to go for 2 one-shot teams, essentially. But Smallgate made it a lot simpler with making it so that you only need to kill the boss 3 times on Epic Hell rather than 5, which also means, you know, you don't really... it's fine to do it more on manual, right? You don't it's totally okay to clear all this more on manual. And now we have more choices of units since the longer E7 is out. Essentially, the more choices of characters we're going to have, which is really awesome. So just all around, it's a much easier time, I would say. So we're taking a while on this fight. This is the hardest one. We have a huge health bonus, so our Shu has like 37,000 HP, which is pretty nice. But this is generally seen as the hardest one, and people have trouble making teams for it. I'll show off a bunch of examples right after this of Epic Hell teams. Keep in mind, any team for Epic Hell, it's much harder than regular Hell difficulty, so even if you can't make a perfect team for Epic Hell, you can definitely do normal Hell difficulty with just a simple team. So always keep that in mind. I believe we have to do just a little more damage after this next tick on the health bar. I think 1 after, and we should be at the final phase, I believe, unless there's 1 right after. But yeah, I've seen people go for like Rowana, Green Sid kind of team, stuff like that. Just like a ton of damage with the Rowana because the boss constantly is doing the extra attacks. So here we go. You will see that we're on the final phase right here. So I'm using Green Lilius, who is insane at this. Look at the damage. Look at the health bar of this boss real quick. Look at that. It broke all the shield and did that much damage. Green Lilius does so much damage to this boss. Now, this team is horribly unoptimized. Do not use this team. It's actually really bad. I didn't even know the mechanics of the boss when I went into this, but essentially, if you don't crit the boss, then it cleanses. And also, if you have a debuff on your team member and you attack them, they also cleanse. So Alencia wasn't doing anything. She was useless. So it was essentially Destina and Lilius are doing everything here. They're carrying all the weight. And my final team, I eventually swapped to just like Zahhak, Green Lilius, and Destina, and it won every single time, so it was fine. Because Green Lilius just does so much damage, you want to constantly just cleanse her and heal her, and that's all that really matters. So like, as you can see here, oh man, it's looking pretty bad, but I just revive. But you can make this team so much better. A lot of people are going for one-shots also. That was always the classic for people. And I've even seen a lot of like Green Violet and other evasion kind of stuff like that too. But as you can see, like, even though it looks kind of jank and I don't even have a good team for this, it's still pretty easy and smooth, right? Like, it's still really easy for me. It was very simple. So right here, you can see we kill the boss and we get that stuff. Good job. We did it. Nice. So now let me show you some example teams. So these are other teams people have used. This one has Abyssal Euphine, Green Vivian, Landy. The second team is Senya, Emo Lilius Violet. Third team is Zahhak, Falconer, Chloe, Baiken. It seems to be a level 50 Baiken as well, so I guess they didn't need much damage over. Now let's go to this one. Belaya, Navy Captain, Landy, Vivian, same as mine. Violet, Falconer, Chloe, Rowana, Sigrid, Destina, Flan, just going for a one-shot. You could probably use Amelia there a little bit better, so that's possible. Final team. Belaya, Navy Captain, Landy, same same team that I used. Violet, Mort, Conqueror, Lilius, Zahhak, Ray, Asaria. Yeah, Ray actually works really well because then you don't get debuffed by the boss, so that it won't be cleansing constantly as long as you have crit on your characters. Next one, same first team. Then we see Violet, Mercenary, Helga, and Asaria. Then we see Midnight God, Liz, Zahhak, Ram, just doing so much damage that the boss just dies. You don't need any healing, essentially. Lion, Charles, Landy, Diane, Senya, Luna. This is a pretty strange second team, and this third team is wild. Violet, Assassin, Cartuja, Remnant, Violet. They said their team was pretty stable, and apparently Violet just popped off, and I think this team is hilarious, so that one seems pretty fun, honestly. Same first team, Brieg, Dien, Shu. They actually brought Brieg in, who's a god of PvE generally, and they went Remnant, Violet, Ray, regular Violet. I will say a lot of people are using the same first team, but really you can use a bunch of other stuff probably. You just need to make sure you have enough AoE with damage. That's all that really matters. So characters that are able to use AoE a decent amount of times while hitting really hard, because you don't want to take too long on the boss. If you hit the boss, let's say 100 times, then the boss is constantly stacking up a passive where it gets faster and does more damage. So you don't want to take too long in each one of the phases. You can't just stall it out constantly, otherwise it'll get harder for each subsequent phase. And then this team, which was done by one of my mods, used the same first team, then used Brieg, Shu, Dien. Apparently Brieg seems to work pretty well, and then Zahhak, Lilius, and Destina, and they said this was their like speed clear team for Hell as well, they were basically using. But they also use this for Epic Hell. So those are a bunch of different teams that I think all work out pretty well. I would say overall the Kiss of Frost mode is difficult. Don't feel too bad though if you can't do Epic Hell. It's really not required. But if you do not do Epic Hell, you will buy all of these and you can buy out the bookmarks, which I highly recommend, and then choose one of the set boxes to go for. That's my biggest recommendation. Otherwise, if you buy too many of the boxes, you're not going to be able to get enough of the bookmarks. You're not going to be able to get the pull. And I would say the pull is pretty worth it because it's essentially just a better galaxy pull. But overall, I would recommend buying everything out of the shop that you possibly can. And a lot of people ask, should I keep farming after? If you really need mod gems, then yes, mostly whales do that. Most other people don't really normally do that. I'm going to go back to farming Rift once I'm done with all this because I don't need the mod gems as much as a whale would. But overall, that's kind of the entire event, an overview, I would say. Make sure you get all your reputation rewards and finish it, and that's pretty much it. Hope that this helped. It's probably similar to my guide last year, but there's definitely some newer characters that can make it a lot simpler, and hopefully that was useful to you. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like or subscribe to the channel, and I hope to see you next time.